Okay, started. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for coming to the training and the discussion today. The topic is modern SEO paradigms, and I've entitled this "The Musings of a DMS." And the reason for that is the discussion will not necessarily be a very coherent argument that's extremely well and logically wrote out. It's more like a couple of areas that are very much related to modern SEO that I'll be presenting on, basically throwing out some thoughts and scattering them into the air, and you guys can catch them and interpret them or analyze them as you want to. Just a disclaimer, SEO is an area of a lot of opinions, as I'm sure many of you know. So these are my data-driven opinions. Everything in here is not just like pure speculation. If it's speculation, I'll mention, but a lot of it's based on research and time in the field doing this work. And yeah, I did prepare it in my own time. You can probably tell I put a little bit of time into this, so I did that on Monday evening. So, the first thing I wanted to do is set the context of this discussion with SEO among the stars. Like, where does SEO fit in regards to the larger picture of online marketing? What's the idea of SEO, and how does it relate to the other elements of online marketing? So, here's a statement. Here's, I guess, a summary of what this idea is. It's a testimony to the richness of online marketing, that no single channel is absolutely essential to success. Yet success can be derived from any channel or any combination of channels. So there are, for example, treatise is a company that works here. They do social media B2B lead generation. It's a very highly niche, very specific area. But they don't need necessarily SEO or PPC to succeed, because they have that channel and they're really good at it. So the first question people would ask is, do you need SEO to succeed? And the answer is not necessarily. Just like every other channel of online, you can succeed with it or with a combination of it and other channels. It's more about figuring out which ones will work better for you. Some people say SEO is unnecessary or it's nebulous. They don't really understand what it is on a tangible level. And others may rely on it exclusively, but both are probably wrong. The truth is SEO is not everything, nor is it unimportant. Just like PPC, Facebook ads, email marketing, affiliate marketing, social media marketing, etc. They all fulfill a piece of the larger puzzle. So I made them mean to express that. So does that make sense? Does that set the scene for the discussion? Okay. So I'm first going to start off with the statement SEO is dead. Raise your hand if you've heard that said before. Yeah, okay. I don't know if anybody noticed, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did, but Moz, which is one of the thought leaders in the online marketing space, a while ago, I'd say about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they changed their name from SEO Moz to Moz. How many of you noticed that? Right. Quite a few people. Do you have any thoughts as to why they decided to make that move?
Branding.
Branding? Okay. Anyone else? Sam?
They don't want to be only fixed to SEO.
In the traditional sense.
Yeah. So perhaps they as a company, they grew up where SEO was large and in charge of online marketing. And then over time, they realized that it's not all about SEO. Just like my previous statement, SEO among the stars, where it fits into the big picture. SEO kind of went from being everything to being one of the many elements of a successful campaign. So this change, SEO Moz is quite significant in setting the scene of where SEO fits into the bigger picture nowadays. So I'm going to start with an analysis of this statement. What does that statement really mean when people say SEO is dead? So here are some quotes I've heard from people. Some of these are from online, some of these are from ex-eWebbers or current eWebbers. One person said, SEO will never die. One person says, well, what works in SEO anyway? Nobody really knows. That's actually a half-true statement, and I'll explain a bit about that later. Clients, I've heard a client say, SEO is just insert some swear words over here. I just pay to stay on the top of Google. SEO, and these are some quotes from online. SEO may no longer be the answer to your traffic-related prayers as Google's algorithms move away from rewarding SEO principles and towards featuring sites with the best content. This statement is an oxymoron. Right? It's a self-contradicting statement, because what it shows is that there was an old paradigm of what SEO is. And this statement actually illustrates it very well. In that time, people thought that Google's algorithms reward SEO principles, not high-quality content. But what I'll explain a little bit later is that Google's intent is and always has been high-quality content and serving that to users. Here's a statement that's probably a lot closer to home. If anything, I'd say that the role of SEO has changed from specialist/technician to more of a project manager or strategic role. SEOs are exceptional at understanding how all the pieces of the online marketing puzzle fit together. So that those references are at the end of the presentation if you want to see them. There are different kinds of SEO, and in order to answer the question, is SEO dead, I need to explain what kinds there are. So broadly speaking, there are three kinds. There's black hat SEO, grey hat, and white hat. Black hat SEO is what I'll speak about first. You could summarize black hat SEO as manipulating the search engine. So black hat SEO is about studying how Google works in order to manipulate it into ranking a site higher organically. In one word, that's called spam. And here are some examples. Private link networks, comment spam, forum spam, negative SEO, content spinning, unnatural link building, all of these examples here. And an analogy that really explains that well is a house of cards. Have you ever seen a house of cards? It's when you build a house out of those normal cards that you use for playing games. It can stand really high, but it's very delicate, and it can break very easily. Spam could simply be defined as anything that wouldn't have reasonably happened without knowledge of search engine algorithms. But even that definition isn't complete enough, because there are certain things you can do that are legitimate, that are based on your knowledge of algorithms. A grey hat SEO is borderline spam. So I read an article recently that said most SEOs are grey hats. It means that probably they've done some dodgy stuff, they've done some legitimate stuff. They kind of straddle the line. What's happened over time is Google has rolled out algorithms which effectively remove the effectiveness of grey or black hat techniques. So, yeah, I hope you like the analogy here. Grey or black hat SEO is like taking steroids. You'll get really excited about your big muscles, but too bad about your future health. So that's pretty much what black hat and grey hat SEO is like. Is black hat SEO dead? When people say SEO is dead, what they really mean is spamming Google doesn't work anymore. In many cases, what that means is we spammed Google and we got penalized, and we're not there anymore. And we can't find a replacement for what we used to do. So we used to be able to manipulate it in XYZ ways, but now we can't manipulate it anymore. So that's what they mean when SEO is dead. Those ways don't work anymore. Algorithm updates like Penguin and Panic can actually destroy companies, because it's that house of cards analogy. But people often are critical of Google. They say, oh, how come you roll out these algorithm updates that do a lot of damage to the SEO industry, they do a lot of damage to the online marketing space? But Google has no obligation to make a spammy site rank higher. They have spam removal algorithms that are applied on top of their standard ranking algorithm. That is effectively what kills SEO. Notwithstanding that, black hat SEO is not dead. It's actually alive and kicking, but it's a lot smaller than it used to be, because as Google rolls out more and more algorithms, people have to be even smarter than Google to stay ahead. So it's an eternal cat and mouse game. Notwithstanding, it's basically Google's credit card versus your credit card. Which of the two companies, yours versus Google, which has more resources to invest in making the algorithms and making the way you work effective? And are you as smart as Matt Cutts? This is Matt Cutts. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. I'm pretty sure a couple of you have. He's the leader of the spam team in Google. He's actually one of my favorite personal guys. I follow his blog. He's a very, very smart guy, and he's very much orientated around increasing the quality of search and making people have a better experience online. Any questions so far? Yeah?
What hat does Ever wear? Red, black, white, grey?
White now. Does that answer the question? Like a lot of companies, not just eWeb, but a lot of people in the SEO space, they used to wear a grey hat. And And the reason they wore it is because everyone else was wearing a grey hat and it was working really well. And so in that time, I'm saying 3-4 years ago, if you didn't wear a grey hat, you pretty much couldn't contend. It's kind of like, to use the athletics analogy, it's kind of like you're running in a race with other people, but all of them take steroids. So are you really going to beat them? Well, then sooner or later, the people who audit the athletics system will say, okay, we're going to do drug tests to make sure people don't take steroids. And then all of a sudden, people stop taking steroids. That's a good analogy to explain what's kind of happened in SEO over time. Does that answer it? Yeah. Okay. What is white hat SEO? And this is, basically I have an article, Heart of SEO, shameless promotion of my own articles here. I just want to discuss quickly what the intent of search engines is. So, and Matt Cutts speaks about this a lot because he's the one in charge of spam, right? It boils down to whenever someone goes to Google and types in a certain keyword, Google wants to serve them A, the most relevant, and B, the highest quality result for their query. In other words, Google wants everyone to be perfectly satisfied with the service at Google. So I'm going to draw a circle here, and that would just be about relevancy, which is the first point, and quality, which is the second one. And that lies at the heart of Google's intent. White hat SEO is really very much focused on this, but I'll explain a bit more. So, approaching it from a white hat SEO point of view, if you wanted to rank for car hire Sydney, go to car hire Sydney and Google it and look at what your competitors are doing. Are their websites actually better than your website? If so, then Google is doing their job just right, just fine, because they're giving the highest quality and most relevant. So I read a forum post once, it was just a little bit of a rant by a white hat SEO guy. And one of the things he says is, do you want to do SEO? Load your site and improve it. It's very simple. Take your website and make it higher quality, and then that will make it rank better. It's not as simple as that, as I mentioned here. There's more to it than just that, but that's the essence of white hat SEO. Improving user experience and making a website better so that it will rank more. And in that sense, you're leveraging Google, not manipulating them. And there's a huge difference between those two concepts. When you leverage Google to offer great user experience, Google loves it because in the end, you're trying to offer a great user experience. Okay, this is a little quote here by Matt Cutts. I don't know if you guys can see it from there. The objective is not to make your links appear natural. The objective is that your links are natural, just as an example, because links are part of the algorithm. White hat SEO is basically like a way of life. This is really becoming very philosophical. But I'd like to discuss an analogy I like to call the sports nutrition analogy. All of us in this room, we eat every day. And we eat enough that we're not hungry. So that's a very simple thing. That's analogous to businesses having a website. A lot of businesses have websites. And they have websites and they're online, great. But if you came and brought in someone like Kesley, who's a sports nutrition guru, you'll probably notice the way he eats is different from the way that we eat. He probably takes care to understand the content of the food, to understand its nutritional value, to understand how much and how little he can eat of what. And then he takes that and in a sense he optimizes the way he eats. So similarly to how eating in the right way can promote muscle growth or developing yourself. Doing SEO in the right way, it's a manner of thinking, it's a way of thinking. Do it in the right way can lead to better Google rankings. So everybody has websites, just like everybody eats, but again, are they done in the right way? This is a picture here. This on the right side, the one I'm drawing here. White hat SEO also includes a lot of technical knowledge, but that technical knowledge is not the central focus of SEO. The technical knowledge sits at the peripheral. For example, understanding that Google uses the algorithm domain-level link metrics, or page-level keywords, brand metrics. It uses a whole bunch of things to rank websites. White hat SEO people understand that, but that's the background of the center is to return relevancy and quality, and the background is to do it in a manner that's friendly with the way search engine algorithms work. In other words, make a great website with users and at the core, with users at the core and search engines as a wallpaper. Does that explain white hat SEO really well? Any questions? So this is what we do, by the way. we help websites to improve in quality, make them more user-friendly, make them serve users better, and we do it in a way that's should I say, consistent with how Google likes to read websites and understand them. So the next question is, well, why had SEO ever die? The heart of Google's intent won't change. They always want to return the highest quality, most relevant results. At Google's inception, the founders said, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. White Hat SEO is about leveraging that to meet a common goal. We're trying to achieve the same goal as Google. We're trying to make our clients' websites really high quality, really relevant so that users will enjoy it and get a good experience. In that sense, as long as there are search engines, White Hat SEO will never die. However, if Google's algorithms were perfect, then this outer area here would die completely, because we wouldn't have to understand how Google works. Because if Google could have it their way, there would probably be Yahoo, which is like a directory that's edited by users, but it's not scalable. That's why they use algorithms. Does that make sense? Yeah. So White Hat SEO probably won't die, but as Google gets better and better, the outer edge will probably shrink, and it'll be very much focused on relevancy and quality. But even that, I don't know. That's probably going to take a couple of years to happen. Cool. Does that answer that question? Well, is SEO dead?
You raise your hand.
In that sense, would you say White Hat SEO is more than UX?
So, good question. UX is the center, but White Hat SEO still involves a good understanding of these other things.
So
I'll give you...
It's a way of UX.
Yes. So for example, you could have a great website, best user experience in the world. It has a robust.txt and it blocks search engines from indexing it. Robust.txt is something that fits within this outer area. So yeah, we're focused on a good user experience, but there are still a lot of technical things, a lot of tick boxes that need to be checked off before a site can rank better. Things like title tags need to be clear. Things like the copy needs to have, I'm not talking about any keyword density, but the copy needs to be relevant and needs to show that it's about that certain topic. The links need to be cleaned. If they're dirty links, toxic links, they need to be detoxed. All of that still fits within the outer area here. So it's still there. But if Google were perfect, then there'd be, robust.txt wouldn't be a problem. Or those links wouldn't be a problem because Google's perfect. Yeah.
You sort of answered the question already, but I just wanted to clarify that the outer circle is more of the metrics of how to measure relevancy and quality. So at the moment, is that right? Is that the right?
Yeah.
So saying user behavior on site, the metric, it's coming up with these metrics to say how long are people staying for, et cetera, et cetera. They're not bouncing, lots of return users. It's because that's a way of measuring that site is providing relevance and quality. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So if you think about it, if we were commissioned to build a search engine, our intent would probably be the same. That's what all search engines are, right? To bring the highest quality result. This is the what in the center. The outside is the how. And so they have to come up with some way on a computing level, on an algorithmic level, to do that. And this just happens to be the current way that they do that. The current way is through domain level link metrics, page level content, the over 200 signals that they monitor. Recently, they just updated that HTTPS websites will get a little bit of a tick up compared to those that are not HTTPS because they have a measure of security. So that's an example. That's how they judge quality. But yeah, the outside is all about how are we going to judge quality. Yeah?
Sorry. So, okay, extremes. Two types of companies come in. One is fantastic relevancy and quality articles, but really crap on the outside. So you'll help them fix the metrics outside. Yeah. Whereas if a company comes in with everything with content that's crap, but they do everything technically correct, then you talk to them about content strategy. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, good. So just to tell you what Black Hat SEO people do is they ignore the center completely and they focus obsessively on the outside. And that's why they fail. Because they're only focused on that. Yeah.
Can you, maybe for everyone, the ABCDEF So you're the stage.
I can, but it wasn't part of the original plan, but I can do that quickly. I'm just going to briefly explain. We have a model that we follow to answer the question. Going back to your question of what is the SEO that we do right now, right, in eWeb. This is a model that we've come up with to explain where we're at, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty much we've articulated what we do. So it follows a phase, and the reason we give it these steps is because there seems to be a logical progression in the way you should do something. When you first get a website, the basics need to be taken care of first. So these are things like the robust.txt is properly formatted, their title tags are proper, there are good meta descriptions. Crow would fit in here. Is the site built for conversion? Is the site built for user experience? These are all, I would say, part of SEO. That's why SEO kind of forms a wallpaper of all other online marketing efforts. So Crow, user experience, on page, technical. What else was in here? I don't remember. A lot of stuff, right? Site structure, all of those basic issues. Right?
Duplicate issues.
Yeah, duplicate content. Those are still, duplicate content is a good example of something that lies on the outside, but doesn't necessarily mean the site's quality is bad. But it still lies on understanding the outside.
Attention, attention. This is the Deputy Chief Warden. Could all wardens in the building please come down to the domain office now?
Is that cat?
Yeah, it is cat.
It sounds like cat.
It's so funny.
Who is the deputy one?
So going back, this is the new picture. Once that's taken care of, this is just about having a site that can convert users and can be properly indexed by Google, essentially. So you could call this step great site. The next phase, logically, is to do things like content strategy. To have a blog, to have channels like email marketing that are driving traffic to the great site, right? Email marketing. To have things like, that's pretty much the essence of it, right? This is all about building a great site, and this is about building a great brand and driving traffic to the site. But the reason why there's this logical progression is there's no point you write the best blog article on earth about investing in houses. And then people visit that, they're like, oh great, I'm going to spill over to the rest of the website. They spill over to the sales copy part of the website, and it's crap. Yeah. So the reason why there's this progression is get the basics right first, focus on fundamentals, and then move on. And once these are good, then you can focus on things like outreach programs. And you can focus on badge campaigns, or basically engaging the community. So this is about building your brand, and this is about building the community. And that's the kind of phased progress approach that we like. Does that explain it, sort of? Yeah. I could spend all day on this, but it's a summary, right? Cool. Okay? Good to move on? Any questions? Yeah. Okay. The next thing, which very much relates to this area here. What is content marketing and what is content strategy? We're just going to analyze the latest buzzwords and what they really mean. So, here's a tidbit of exciting data. Eric Schmidt is the CEO of Google. He said, every 2 days now we create as much information as we did from the dawn of civilization up until the year 2003. That's something like 5 exabytes of data. I actually sat down and calculated what that means in terms of human terms, because you hear 5 exabytes of data. What's that, right? That's about 263,047 Avatar movies per second. That's how much information the world is putting out. Do you like the Avatar picture? So, the reason, because Avatar is about 11 gigs. You know, Avatar is a very high quality, very graphics intensive movie. It's about 11 gigabytes. If you sit down and calculate it, that's how many Avatar movies are generated every second. That is a background to content marketing. So content, let me just speak a bit more about that. The essence is content marketing is about putting out content. But it's important to understand how much content is already being put out every second onto the internet. So when you do content marketing, here are a few questions that critical questions that I like to ask. They really dig down to the heart of it. Are we speaking just because we have to speak? Or are we speaking because we have something significant to say? So there's a very big distinction between those. In a world full of noise, there's so much generation of information online. Do we truly add value to people's lives? Or are we just adding to the noise that's out there? And here's a graph explaining it. So this is an explanation of the activity online. About 1% of online actually creates the content, like blog articles, everything. About 10% in total are the people who create content and interact with content. Things like talking, buzz, discussion, sharing on Facebook, and so on. And about 90% of the internet is just consuming content. What's happening over time is that this 1% here is increasing. There's a shift in this direction. But the thing is, the amount of people consuming content is not increasing as quickly. So when you have a ratio of, say, 1% creating content, 99% consuming, if that jumps to 2, you have double the content online, but you don't have double the readership at the same time. You just have double the amount of information. And what this leads to is something that's up and coming, which I've read some articles on. I have a graph over here. 2 things. One person called it content shock. The other person called it content fatigue. And I'll explain both of these. Content shock is a simple understanding of a supply and demand relationship. So what content shock says is back 10 years ago, 15 years ago when the internet was still very young, content was readily consumed. When someone could download a picture of the Hubble deep space, an image of space, that piece of content was everything. They would wait 5 minutes for that to load because they'd sit on their dial-up modem, they'd click it, and 5 minutes later, wow, here's a great, beautiful picture. But what's happened over time is the amount of content has increased exponentially. But there's a finite limit to how much content we can consume as a user base. And content shock, this isn't, by the way, this isn't absolute, this varies per industry. But content shock describes a threshold where the amount of content is so high and the readership and the people actually engaging in content are relatively low in comparison because of the amount of content, that the supply and demand will hit that threshold. Kind of like when you are selling a new product like an Apple iPhone at a really high price, and then all of a sudden the supply of phones, for example, Android phones of different kinds increases dramatically, then it puts a price war and it really changes the matrix around. Something else to understand about the economics of content is that you're actually paying people to read your content. Content creation costs money, hosting it on a server costs money, putting time into research costs money, but it's given to people for free, completely free. So the question we need to ask is, are you willing to, if you sit down and actually look at the economics of the situation, let's say it costs $250 for a blog article. What we need to realize is, look, maybe 100 people read that blog article. Was that an economic transaction? Was it a very sound economic transaction? What are you after? And I'll get to that in the next slide. So that's content shock. The next one is called content fatigue, which speaks about the likelihood of people sharing and interacting with content based on how much content there is online. So content fatigue is something that I've personally experienced, but I think many of you would also feel that you've experienced this. This is a graph showing that if you interact with more content every day, the likelihood that you share it goes down. The likelihood that you comment on it or do anything active with it goes down. And so what has to happen is, for example, here's you have an extremely high likelihood of sharing something because you don't see much. That's kind of like 10 years ago. Over time, people are exposed to a lot more content, and they're much less likely to interact with it. What this says to me is that we have to put up very, very high quality content, or it just won't compete with everything that's out there. Content, so this is just, I want to zoom out again and speak about the definition of the word effective. Effective means producing or capable of producing an intended result or having a striking effect, able to accomplish a purpose or functioning effectively. So the question I want to ask is, if you're doing content marketing, what is your desired effect? What are you trying to get out of it? If you're doing it just because everyone's doing it and that's the buzzword, then you'll never be able to measure success or the success of it. The question is content marketing effective? That's it's a very high level question. If you're looking at it from a purely SEO point of view, looking at the outside, people do content marketing or migrated to content marketing because it gets backlinks. But going back to these previous slides, the more content there is online, the less likely people are to interact with it, share it, like it, link to it, and so on. Here's a little comparison I did. So if you're thinking about it just in terms of backlinks, here's a comparison I did. We have 2 clients. I have 2 clients personally. One of them has 51 blog articles and 3 backlinks to the blog. Those backlinks all come from someone who was doing a guest post. So it was a guest post done on their blog, and the person who was doing the guest post was like, hey look, I wrote on this person's blog. Great. Here's another client that we have, 85 articles, so a lot higher, or a little bit higher number, 11 backlinks in total. So the question is, which content marketing is more effective? If you're after a certain desired effect of having backlinks, then this is definitely more effective. This is a screenshot of the backlinks. If you analyze these, you'll notice that people tend to link to only a certain category more. So this blog of my client has several categories. One category gets a lot of engagement in terms of backlinks. So if you're analyzing content marketing and saying, is it effective? Then what I would say is, hey, why don't we de-emphasize the other categories and add a bit more into this category because it's getting a lot of engagement. Another thing related to that effective argument is, if you put out one blog post or one piece of content every 3 months, but that piece gets a lot of engagement, then that's better than putting out a crappy post every